We're going to take a quick look at the need for big data, and more importantly, figuring out where does big data need to be used in your organization. Overall, the issue that we need to be concerned with is senior management's fear, uncertainty, and doubt around data. What is their fear? Well, surveys say that most CEOs' greatest fear is that their strategy will fail. Now, this is interesting. If we take a look at why, what are they uncertain about in their strategy? The answers typically are in the range of, we're uncertain that we're doing the right things. In other words, have we captured that strategy and correctly translated it into action? And what are their doubts? Well, their doubts seem to focus on, are they doing those right things right? Are they performing at the levels that their customers need, that their processes demand, that regulators expect? So ultimately, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, as seen by the executive, is about strategy, and strategy equals doing the right things right. So, how do you solve this problem? What can you do to help your clients and prospects close that chasm? Well, think of it this way. There has to be a way that you can capture that strategy. And let's say we list it down the left side of a spreadsheet. What are those key strategic objectives? And secondly, how important are they to this year's strategy? What's their weighting? Now we have the strategy. What about doing the right things right? Well, what if we were to list those things, the processes and projects in which we work, across the top of a spreadsheet? In this example, there are things like sales, operations, new products, and so forth. And we should understand what is the relationship between each of these strategic objectives and these processes. In fact, the processes not only support these objectives, but we should be able to grade them high, medium, and low. So in this example, we're suggesting that sales has a high support to grow revenue, low influence on cutting costs, high influence on attracting customers, and high influence on delivering great service. Now this is useful because now service can understand where they should be prioritizing their activities based on their level of impact and how important that objective is to the organization. So that captures the story about doing the right things. And where there's a high strategic weighting and a high impact, those are areas that leadership needs to make sure that we're doing the right things. And this analysis clearly highlights where those points are. That's doing the right things. The last equation we need to answer for management is, how do we know we're doing it right? Well, what if in each cell we put in a key performance indicator, and we'd make it turn red, yellow, and green based on how we're performing? In this case, we can see that sales is performing well in the area of grow revenue and deliver great service, slightly behind target on attracting new customers, and significantly behind target on cut costs. Now, typically a leadership team without this tool would focus in on the red. But in this case, we need to consider, is a red at only 5% more important to us than a yellow at 50? So by adding this strategy on, we can properly prioritize where our focuses should be to make sure we're doing the right things to the right level. And as we extend this, we can begin to see both which processes are performing well and, in this example, which strategic objectives are at risk. So this simple analysis, we could then use technology tools to quickly make it available to all members of the leadership team, whether it's through strategy maps, scorecards, dashboards, and so forth. That's a fairly standard way to begin the journey. But now we need to focus in on where do things like big data and where does that pay off? So let's go back to that high priority, high impact square. In this example, sales' impact on attracting new customers. This is where we should be focusing our big data efforts. There's huge amounts of data about the Salesforce interaction. the responses to that interaction by customers, and the propensity to buy and future activities as a result of that. When we begin to understand each of the phases of the sales process and how the customers are responding and being attracted to the business, we can very quickly determine where it is we need to continue our efforts and where we need to refocus our energies. That's how we can begin to prioritize where we use big data and the sorts of problems it can best solve.